18. He's given time. He wants Jefferson. Climbs the ladder. Oh my goodness! Justin Jefferson pulled it in. The catch of his life.
Despite having success during the Kirk Cousins era, the Minnesota Vikings' regular season triumph always turned to heartbreak in the playoffs, no matter how many one-handed catches Justin Jefferson was able to make. The same could be said for the short-lived Sam Darnold era, who led Minnesota to a 14-3 record, which culminated in an embarrassing wildcard defeat against the Los Angeles Rams. But he was never the answer anyways. 2024 Coach of the Year Kevin O'Connell and the Vikings organization found their franchise quarterback when they traded up to select Michigan quarterback JJ McCarthy with the 10th overall pick in the 2024 NFL Draft. The former national champion will be asked to lead Minnesota to the promised land after 6+ decades of agonizing defeat. McCarthy missed his rookie season with a torn meniscus in his right knee, but he has the tools to become a more than solid starting quarterback at the NFL level, and more importantly, the leadership skills.
Pocket for McCarthy towards the end zone. That is caught. Touchdown.
Thanks to Michigan's run-heavy offense and his absence for Minnesota in year one, people have been sleeping on McCarthy, and with the help of Coach O'Connell and the Vikings' offensive artillery, he is about to wake everybody up. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome inside the Turfed Football Podcast Studio. As always, I'm your host, Kieran Drover, and you now know that today I'm going to be covering Minnesota Vikings' first-year starter at quarterback, JJ McCarthy. He was the 10th overall pick in the 2024 NFL Draft after the Vikings organization traded up to get him, and unfortunately, during his rookie year, suffered a torn right meniscus in his knee that held him out the entire season, while Sam Darnold had probably led Minnesota to a 14-3 record and playoff berth. Now, this was a step back, but JJ is just 22 years old, which makes him younger than other young quarterbacks like Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, even Cam Ward, who was the first overall pick of the 2025 NFL Draft. Before I get started, I want to say that I think JJ is going to be a very successful quarterback, even in his first year, and I think he will lead the Minnesota Vikings to the playoffs. Bending the rules, I know he's not a rookie, but in the past couple of seasons, we've seen a ton of first-year starters, rookies specifically, take their teams to the playoffs in year one. CJ Stroud in 2023, and last year it was Jaden Daniels and Bo Nix. I think JJ McCarthy is that guy in 2025. A summary of what I'll be covering today: his arm talent, his athletic upside, the scheme fit with Kevin O'Connell and Minnesota, his leadership abilities, and the things that I think he needs to improve on, because unfortunately, not every person or quarterback are perfect. But I'm going to start, before I get into my first topic, by discussing the common misconception with JJ as a prospect when he was coming out of Michigan last year. And that was, look at the numbers. JJ only averaged 327 pass attempts per season in his 2 years at Michigan as the starter. In one game in 2023 against Penn State, he threw the ball 8 times. Michigan chose to run the ball with Blake Corum, who became an NFL draft pick, behind a good offensive line and lean on a great defense. They didn't ask JJ to not throw the ball or make a ton of high-level, difficult throws downfield because he couldn't do it. It's because they didn't need him to win. And a lot of people said, if he's not winning games with his arm at college, then how is he going to do it in the pros? To me, JJ has a ton of upside, a ton of talent, and he could make all of those throws. Michigan just didn't need him to do it because they were winning games anyways. In his 2 years as a starter at Michigan, he lost just one game. But all of that aside, I'm here to debunk this whole theory that he's not some talented first-round pick-worthy QB and show you exactly why I think he is going to be very successful for a long time for the Minnesota Vikings. During the 2024 NFL draft process, the one thing that I heard all of the pundits writing and saying was that JJ didn't have any one elite trait. And when you're looking for a quarterback in the first round, let alone the top 10, there should be at least one thing they do really, really well that puts them above the rest of their peers or the field. The one thing I continuously wrote down, first and foremost for JJ, was that he had elite arm talent, specifically arm strength. I thought he had a rocket for an arm on tape, and that is going to translate really well to the pros. In college, you could probably get away without having that, but in the pros, there's tighter passing windows, and each of the players you're going up against on defense are better athletes than the ones you faced at college. They're going to be smarter, faster, more physical, and much better coached. The numbers back it up too. A 6.8% big-time throw rate in his final year at Michigan. For reference, Josh Allen, the MVP, led the NFL last year with a 7.1% big-time throw rate. And the leader in terms of that stat in the 2025 NFL draft class was Jackson Dart, who had a 6.7% big-time throw rate last year in his final year at Ole Miss. I'm going to break down two plays where I thought that this shined the most, and in fact, where the defense did everything right, at least in the first example, and JJ's cannon for an arm was able to transcend the scheme and still win the rep. This play is from JJ's 2023 season at Michigan, where the Indiana defense appears to be running cover 2. So, Michigan sets up their smash concept, which is designed to put the curl flat defender in a conflict. Whichever route he chooses to cover, JJ will throw to the opposite. But post-snap, Indiana rolls the safety into the curl flat zone to defend the speed out, while the boundary cornerback drops into a deep third and should cover the corner route in a cover 3 look. The play shouldn't really work, but credit to JJ, he sets his feet and delivers a seed to Colston Loveland on the corner route before the curl flat defender, who shot down to cover the speed out, is able to flip his hips and break up the pass. The end zone angle makes this throw even more impressive and would widen the eyes of any NFL scout. And no, I do not fall into that category, but it does the same to me. Our next play is from the 2024 National Championship game versus Washington. The Huskies defense appears to be in some sort of quarters look, but after the ball is snapped, they roll into cover 3 cloud. Michigan is in 21 personnel, 2 running backs, and 1 tight end, which signals to the defense they are likely running the ball. However, they run play action, and it manipulates the defense into running downhill, while the deep over and dig routes from the backside of the play come open over the top. Watch the one safety for Washington, number 7 in white, get baited by the hard play action and turn his back to JJ while attempting to recover and find his deep third assignment. This play is designed to have the deep over route clear the 2 play side safeties, which it does, so the backside dig comes open to number 6. JJ actually makes the wrong read, but because he sees the defender's back is turned and he's got a War of 1812 cannon strapped to his shoulder, it doesn't really matter. This is a throw that most quarterbacks would never dare attempt, whether it's the right read or not, but JJ has enough arm strength and arrogance to fit the ball into extremely tight passing windows, even 30 yards downfield. Remember when I said that he had a 6.8% big-time throw rate during his final season at Michigan? Here's an example of one of those throws, especially when you consider it's on the biggest stage of his life in the national championship. Regardless of how many times he threw the ball at Michigan or didn't, this is an NFL level throw, and when you break down his tape, you'll find plenty of throws like this littered throughout it. I cannot wait to see him connect with Jettas at US Bank Stadium. But now, let's move along to my next topic. In my opinion, JJ McCarthy has a ton of athletic upside. In fact, he's very sneaky athletic as a rusher. I think he has more speed than people would expect him to have, and certainly what defenses will expect him to have. And he is very good at escaping the pocket too, to extend plays with his legs and eventually find things downfield with his arm. I'll admit that his college rushing numbers don't jump off the page, but keep in mind that sacks count as negative rushing yards in college. Hate that. 2022, 70 attempts, 306 yards, 5 touchdowns. 2023, less productive, 64 attempts, 202 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Not the greatest aspect of his game, but like I said, he does have underrated speed. JJ didn't run the 40-yard dash at either the NFL Combine or Michigan Pro Day, so perhaps take this with a grain of salt. But according to the Detroit Free Press, who have covered Michigan football for years, he ran a 4.48 second 40-yard dash ahead of the 2023 college football season, and I think that speed showed up on tape, at least at times in Michigan. For reference, Justin Fields ran a 4.44 second 40-yard dash at his Ohio State Pro Day, and he has an 1,100-yard rushing season in the NFL. I'm not saying that JJ will ever eclipse that total himself, or even that he's as quick as Justin Fields, but what I'm saying is that he does have a ton of athletic upside, and I think more so than people were led on to believe. Another trait that most of the elite quarterbacks have in the NFL, is that on 3rd or 4th down, when the team needs them the most, and everything goes right for the defense, can they still win the rep? Patrick Mahomes does that, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, heck, even Jalen Hurts and Justin Herbert. I think JJ has that knack too. He's not always going to put the cape on. He didn't have to at Michigan, and I don't think he'll have to at Minnesota. But when he needs to, can he pull a first down out of his ass when there's an unblocked blitzer or perfect coverage in the defensive backfield? I think so. We'll also see a new wrinkle in the Vikings offense thanks to JJ. That's designed quarterback runs and a level of toughness as a rusher that we haven't seen from the QB position in Minnesota in years. There were numerous occasions at Michigan where Jim Harbaugh and the offense schemed up designed quarterback runs for JJ. 4th and 2, QB counters, QB powers, quarterback draws, you name it. And on said plays, he showed great toughness. Like it or not, he's going to fight for every single yard. But going back to the scheme, that brings me to my next topic of discussion. It's no secret that JJ is going into one of the best situations a young quarterback could ask for. From the backfield to the offensive line to the wide receivers, the Vikings offense is stacked. Justin Jefferson is the best wide receiver in football, and Jordan Addison is great as wide receiver too. TJ Hawkinson is fantastic as a pass catcher, and the backfield has Aaron Jones, 1,500 scrimmage yards a year ago, and now Jordan Mason, who is one of the more efficient runners on a yards per carry basis in football last season. On the offensive line, Christian Darrisaw at left tackle returns from an injury and can be elite. At left guard, Donovan Jackson is a first-round pick from Ohio State, and at center and right guard, Ryan Kelly and Will Fries come over from the Indianapolis Colts. And that is before even mentioning that Kevin O'Connell, an offensive mind, was the 2024 head coach of the year, and we all know that he has continuously elevated the play of who is under center for the Minnesota Vikings since he took over as head coach. Kirk Cousins has had some of the best years of his career in Minnesota, leading them to 13-3 records, and we all know what happened last year with Sam Darnold, who just signed a $100 million contract in Seattle. But to me, the whole scheme thing comes down to a whole lot more than that. The Vikings offense has been super play action heavy over the past 3 seasons under head coach Kevin O'Connell. In 2024, Sam Darnold ranked tied for 5th in play action attempts with 159. In 2022, I'm excluding 2023 because Kirk Cousins was injured, Cousins ranked 2nd with 188 play action attempts. JJ's 2 seasons as the starter for Michigan, his play action passing stats are as follows. In 2022, 1,100 yards with 9 touchdowns and 1 interception, 0 sacks, and a PFF passing grade of 92.3. In 2023, an 82.3 adjusted completion rate with just under 1,000 passing yards, 6 more touchdowns, just 1 more interception, and just 3 sacks, a PFF passing grade of 83.8. According to PFF, his adjusted NFL passer rating on play action passes from 2022 to 23, his 2 years as a starter at Michigan, was 140.1. That ranked 2nd in college football during that stretch. And JJ is comfortable under center, which no one in college does these days. So it's a new thing for most at the NFL level, but it will not be for JJ. So it's now clear that JJ enters not only the perfect offense in terms of its arsenal and head coach, but the perfect scheme that suits his abilities. And we also know that even when the scheme doesn't go right, JJ can still transcend it and make plays with both his arm and legs. That brings me to my next topic, leadership. It's obviously difficult for people like me to evaluate draft prospects' leadership abilities because I can only scout what I see on TV or on film. After all, I haven't met any of these players, so it's hard to determine what their intangibles are really like. With that said, here are a couple of clips from JJ's interview with Rich Eisen leading up to the 2024 NFL Draft that I think showcases what kind of leader he can be for the Minnesota Vikings franchise.
I just want you to know that the most important stat of a quarterback is wins and losses. Tom Brady, yeah, obviously he's got great stats, but his most important stat is that 7 rings he's got on his fingers.
How do you respond to people who say you weren't asked to do? as much as a quarterback in the NFL needs to have done to lead a team to a championship.
What I was asked to do was to adapt to Coach Harbaugh's system. And it was a hard pill to swallow. I'm not going to lie to you, because I know the work I put in. I know the confidence that I have in myself. But, this is a system that has worked for him ever since he got into coaching at USD. So, like, being able to put my personal motives aside and do what's best for the team and follow my coach's orders, because that's what we're soldiers on the football field. We follow our, top of the command, and we do what they say. And
I just want to quickly say that my favorite answer from that collage or montage, if you will, was when JJ referenced Tom Brady's 7 Super Bowl rings as the most impressive and important stat of his career. Sure, it's nice to throw 50 passing touchdowns in a single season and be the hero who wears the cape for the franchise, but wins and losses are what count most, and I think that's a testament to what JJ's mindset was like at Michigan. Sure, there were going to be times when he only threw the ball 8 times a game, but it's winning that matters most, and that is exactly what he has done so far in his football career. But my last topic of discussion, what does JJ need to improve heading into this season and for the rest of his career? For as good and, a better word, underrated as I thought JJ was at Michigan, there were 2 problems that stood out to me when watching his tape. Now, these problems are fixable. You can't really coach having a rocket for an arm, and you certainly can't really coach speed. But JJ does have to improve not staring down his first read or predetermining where he's going to throw the ball pre-snap, and his post-snap processing, especially when it comes to reading the defense's safeties. I'm going to jump into the film and break down 2 plays during his 2023 season that showed these problems, and hopefully he'll be able to improve them in 2025. The first play comes on 4th and 1 against Penn State, where Michigan is expecting cover 1 man, which they get. So they use the weak side tight end to run a clear-out route that takes both his man coverage assignment and the deep middle safety out of the play. Out of play action, the underneath crosser from the opposite tight end should be open, which it is, considering you're putting a talented receiving tight end in Colston Loveland in a one-on-one with inside leverage. However, JJ stares down his first read and doesn't follow the play design that worked to perfection had he just thrown there. To be honest, I'm not sure what JJ was thinking here, especially because he throws this ball somewhat back shoulder, which is towards the safety, but luckily he's bailed out by a flag and Michigan gets a fresh set of down anyways. On the second angle, you can clearly see how open Loveland is underneath, which should have been an easy pitch and catch for a first down. On our next play, going up against Michigan State, the Wolverines run a post-crosser concept that's built to beat MSU's quarters defense. JJ's only job is to read the strong safety, which you can see at the far right of your screen. If he sits back and undercuts the post route, JJ throws underneath to Roman Wilson, who is running the crosser from the bottom of your screen. However, if he jumps forward to defend the crosser, which he does, then the post route should open up over the top for a touchdown. JJ doesn't see the strong safety reading his eyes and forces a throw into coverage while the post route uncovers for a would-be score. We have to remember that coaches have egos too, and when their scheme works for a big play and the quarterback leaves said play on the field by making the wrong decision, there's going to be hell to pay. You can see the Michigan receiver wave his arm, A, because he's a receiver and that's just what they do, but also because he was reading the strong safety as well, and when he saw him bite on the crosser, his eyes lit up because he was expecting to score a 40-yard touchdown in a rivalry game. That brings me to the end of my video and breakdown on Minnesota Vikings first-year starting quarterback, JJ McCarthy. Like I said at the beginning, I do think that JJ is going to lead the Vikings back to the playoffs this season, despite being in his first year as a starter. Now, there are some things he needs to work on, as I've highlighted, but he does have a ton of athletic upside, both with his arm and his legs, and I'm super excited to see how his first season in the NFL unfolds in 2025. Hopefully, things will go great for him, and the Vikings offense will not miss a beat. In my predictions video that I posted yesterday, I have Justin Jefferson as the Offensive Player of the Year. JJ McCarthy, although I bet Aiden Hutchinson, might be a good bet for Comeback Player of the Year award, if that's what you're into. Thank you everybody for tuning into this video, and I am so excited for the NFL season to get going. Cheers and peace out.